Well, guys, we've heard the original version of the Three Little Pigs, and now it's time to hear the true story of the Three Little Pigs. This time, this was written from the wolf's point of view, and this, I want you to listen for Alexander T. Wolf's side of the story. So remember, the first version we heard was written kind of from the pig's point of view. This one is written from the wolf's point of view. Now, you may be able to pull out some of the same ingredients. You'll hear kind of some of the same things that happened in the last story, but I want you to listen to how this one is different and how it turns out because it's written from the wolf's point of view. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do, but I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story, because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. And he's talking about himself, Alexander T. Wolf. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheeps and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold, and I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house out of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just look into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed and sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? The whole darn straw house fell down, and right in the middle of the pile of the straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate him up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just laying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the neighbor's next door house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, not by much. He had built his house out of, you guessed it, just like the original story, sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled back, Go away, Wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. I just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth. But a great sneeze came out. And you're not going to believe it, but the guy's house fell down too, just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was a second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open, so I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny, her cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear old sweet granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed, I snuffed, and I sneezed again. Then the third little pig yelled out, and your old granny can sit on a pin. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when someone talks about my granny, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down this pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and a puffing and a sneezing, I was making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me, the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. There he is. He really thinks he was framed. This is his side of the story. Who knows what the real story is, right? But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. See how those two stories are different? Same characters, little different things happening in the story, but a fractured fairy tale always has a twist versus the traditional classic fairy tale. So think about that. We're going to be doing some activities that you're going to be comparing the two, and we're going to be talking about some point of view things. So be ready to do these activities and do a really good job on them. Good job, guys.